Hey everyone, what's going on? I decided to do a little work in progress video. Right now I am working on the Master Grade Kampfer. It's a mobile suit from 0080 War in the Pocket. It's a pretty cool OVA if you've never seen it. It's only about 10 episodes, you get through it pretty quick. It takes place right after the original Gundam, and the Kampfer is a Xeon suit that they use at the end of the show. It's really cool. It's a little different design, very mobile, lots of thrusters, some cool weapon options. So I'm doing this for a build off from an Instagram group called the MS Royale. It's an Instagram group I belong to. A couple of guys from here in the States, and there's a couple over in Europe. And we decided to do a summer build off where you just had to pick a master grade. So it doesn't have any kind of special theme or, it's not real strict. Everyone just has a master grade they're working on. So I've already snap built the kit. Then I separated it in limbs, cleaned up all the nubs and everything. I snap build my kits first just to see if there's any modifications I want to do, any seam lines that need to be removed. Sometimes they're tricky, they're around other parts. And this kit in particular is actually pretty old. It was 2001 it was made, so it suffers from some of the things that master grades had problems with back in 2001. It had some seam lines. It doesn't have as many parts as maybe a newer master grade. Um, Especially in the weapons, they're actually pretty much all just two pieces sandwiched together. So all of them have a seam line running down the middle. But right now, what I've done is separated the arms and the torso, and I'm working on those first. I didn't paint everything all at once. It's just a lot of parts, and I'm not custom making any paint, so it's not like I have to worry about matching anything later down the road. And I'll go over all my paint choices in just a little bit. But I'll show you what I started on. I've just started on the frame for the upper body and any of the parts that are going to be metallic, like any of the thrusters or verniers. So what I've done first is lay down a layer of gloss black enamel. You can see it here. Sorry. So it came out pretty good. And what this is Model Master Gloss Black Enamel. And I also used some Tester's Enamel Thinner. Now, what you want to do, I can't give you really a ratio of exactly how much thinner to how much paint, but what you're looking for is a consistency of milk. It's roughly 50-50. I use like a little shot glass actually to mix mine up, and I just use a paint stir, and you kind of drag it up the glass, and if you see it fall down but leave a little film, it's pretty good. Now, one of the nice things about enamels is they lay down really flat. Let me see if I can get a bigger piece here. This is a little bigger, but I don't know if you can tell. It's very, very flat, very shiny. And this actually, I just removed the nubs, gave it all a nice sand, but it's not actually been primed with anything else. I didn't use any primer. It's just straight enamel over the plastic. And it works good for metallics. It gives it a nice shiny base. They look really nice when they're done. They look very metallic. So, like I said, I haven't put anything below it. Now, the problem with enamel is it takes a little while to dry. If you're spraying lacquers, you know that by the time you've gotten through spraying all your parts, the stuff you started with is probably already dry. This isn't the case with enamels. It actually took me, I did these about 3 days ago, and they're finally really dry. After about 24 hours, they still were a little tacky. Not that you could rub the paint off if you just put your finger on it, but just didn't really have that hard shell. And I'm going to be spraying lacquers over the top of them, so if you don't let them dry all the way, they're going to crack. So I live in kind of a humid climate. I'm down in South Florida, So it's humid most of the year, even in the winter. So I let them dry for 72 hours, and now I am going to spray over them. Like I said, it's mostly inner frame pieces, and all of the inner frame pieces I'm going to do in Alcalad Durlanium. So I'll shake this up a little bit. These are pretty cool. It's kind of like like a dark silvery color. And the nice thing about Alcalad, these are all pre-thinned, so you just have to give them a good shake, pour them in your airbrush, and you can spray. There you can get a look at it. So I'm going to do most of the inner frame in this color. And then for some of the thrusters, the way these thrusters work is they're two pieces. It's like an outside shell and then an inside thruster. And there's also a couple other small pieces here and there I'm actually going to do in Alcalad to airframe aluminum. It's a little bit lighter than the Durlanium, and hoping it comes out a little shinier, just to give it some contrast. And then the inside of all the thrusters and all the little parts around the suit that would have been in that in a yellow color, I'm going to do in pale gold. So I think that'll look nice, just give it a little pop of color here and there so it's not just all silver. Let me show you on the legs. This is an assembled leg, and I haven't taken it apart yet, but you can see all these little orange thrusters in here. Those would all be gold, and then the outsides of them, those are all going to be that airframe aluminum. And then on the inside parts, like the joints here, that'll all be that Durlanium color. So I'm not going to show myself painting the way my spray booth is pretty small. You're probably not going to get a good angle at it. So I'll show you once everything is done. I might as well go over some of the other color choices for the armor and some other things. Like I said, other than this, other than the paint that's on there now, other than the enamels, I'll be spraying the rest of the model with lacquer. And the main color is this Mr. Color. It's a Gundam color, so it's already pre-mixed to Sazabi red. Alright. And then for some of the panels here and there mixed in just to give it a little bit of contrast and make it a little more interesting, I guess, I'm going to go with a little darker red, Russet from Mr. Color. It's actually a really nice red, even for some of your more traditional Gundams, like the red they use on their feet and stuff. It's a little darker than that Gundam red, but I think it comes out really nice. So that's going to be most of the body. Then the weapons, I got some more Mr. Color paints, just some flat black for some of the handles and stuff like that. Some silver for a couple of touches. They have some screws, and there's a shotgun with like a pump action on it, so I thought that might look good in silver. And then just some Mr. Color steel, just for most of the body of the weapons. I might throw in some of the Alcalad here and there just to make it a little brighter. I'm not sure yet. And the only other color I have here is just some green for the mono eye on the Kampfer. So if you can't tell, based on the color choices, turning the Kampfer into a Char suit. When I first saw 0080, I remember seeing the Kampfer. Like I said, I encourage you guys to go ahead and give it a watch. It's very maneuverable. It's a really cool mobile suit. It's not really anything like some of the other things that were going on at that time. It's not like a Zaku. It's a little bit cooler of a suit. And immediately I thought, man, Char should have had that in the original Gundam. I'm sure he would have fared a lot better than some of the Zakus and Zagaks and stuff like that he did have. So when we decided to do this custom build off, I had the Kampfer laying around and just thought it would look cool in these colors. Some of the other guys are doing things that are a little more elaborate, a lot more modification, but one of the things I'll kind of go over in a later video is I'm actually still pretty new at this. So painting this will only be my third kit I've really painted. It'll actually be the first master grade I've fully painted. Some of the other guys have a little more experience than me. Some of them have less. So, we'll see how this goes. And let me know at the end. I'll actually be filming this all before you guys actually see the videos. So by the time you guys see the videos, the suit will be done. Doing that because the guys in the build group and myself actually don't want to show too much off until we're all done and kind of unveil them all at the same time. And we're gonna have to figure out some kind of way to see who's the winner. There's no prizes or anything like that. It's just for fun amongst us, and something cool about the community to share ideas and share builds with each other. So like I said, I'll have a couple more videos and I'll release them all at the end, just kind of what I'm doing. I'll show a little work in progress video on the weapons and another one when I start laying down color on the armor parts. Alright, I'm back from spraying down some paint. Let it dry overnight, and I'm going to show you guys what I got so far. I have some, this is the pale gold color. Like I said, this is going on some of the thrusters. I painted the outsides here, but it was probably just a waste because they're actually getting pushed into some other thrusters. So you'll just see this inside part, but you can see it's pale gold. And then I painted most of the inner frame parts this duralanium color. See, it's a little darker than like an aluminum or a chrome. Almost like a stainless steel look, I would say. So just pretty neutral. I think it goes well for inner frame parts. Came out pretty good. And then lastly, this is the aircraft aluminum. And I'm really happy with how that came out. It's pretty shiny, but it's not quite as shiny as like a chrome. It's not a mirror finish, but it came up pretty cool. I think once that's panel lined, it'll look really nice. I did this piece. I did all of the outside of the thrusters, and then there's some shoulder pieces right there. Let's see if I can turn this around. There you go. And then on the box art, these little tiny circles are dark. I was going to drill them out, but on the back side of this, there's not really anything that interesting in there. I was just kind of worried that, I don't know, it wouldn't look finished, or you'd kind of give away that illusion and make it look like a toy. So I'm actually just going to take some paint and fill those three in. I think that'll look fine. So, like I said, I used Alcalad paints. I used pale gold, duralanium, and aircraft aluminum. Outside of this bottle, got a little spill on it. And they're all pre-thinned, which is really nice. That makes things really easy. You just dump them right into the airbrush, spray them out. It also, in my mind, makes things a little cleaner because you're not mixing in another container and pouring it into the airbrush. So it's really easy to use, easy to clean up. And for the compressor, on the side of the bottles here, it says between 12 and 15 psi. I had it, I'd say between 12 and 14, and that seemed to do plenty fine. For the pale gold, I actually turned it up just a little bit, probably between 15 and 16. They all spray a little differently. It takes a little while to get used to. I would suggest maybe spraying on a plastic spoon or something like that. For instance, the duralanium, you really want to just spray that on in very light coats. What I've noticed with these metallics is you want to keep the part moving. You know, you don't want to ever have it just sitting there spraying in one section for too long. I mean, obviously, when you're spraying anything, it'll just run if you spray in one area for a long time. But what happens with the aluminum, actually, especially, is if you're spraying in one area too long, it'll start to dull. It kind of doesn't look as metallic. It looks more like gray paint or silver paint. So just keep it moving. The gold, since it's flat, it's pale gold, which it doesn't have as much shimmer as the other two. You kind of just spray it like normal. Still, you want to do some light coats. You don't want to put it on too thick, but you have to be definitely a little more careful with the aircraft aluminum. And then the duralanium, again, you just spray it on in some light coats. That one is kind of interesting because if you spray it on really light, you still see a lot of that, it's a lot darker. You still see some of that black underneath. It looks kind of cool, especially on frame parts, because with all the raised surfaces, and then, it's a little darker underneath, it kind of gives it that contrast, some nice shadowing effects and stuff like that. So, yeah, that came out pretty good. So right now, I'm just going to take these parts and I'm going to clear coat them. I am going to panel line, most of them, at least the ones that can be. Some of them don't really have any panel lines. What I'm going to use is Alclad gloss clear coat. And you want to use clear coat before you do any panel lining and also before you do any decaling. Just gives for panel lining, it just gives the ink, it runs through it a little smoother. When I get to that point, I'll show you what I mean. But and then kind of the same thing for the decals, especially if you're using water slides. It gives you a nice smooth surface, and you can move the decal around a little bit before it's placed. If it was like a rough surface, it might cause it to bunch up or rip, or just wouldn't work as well. So I am going to spray this on there. Again, like I said a little earlier, the way my air booth is set up, you really can't see much, so you would just see my big hands and an airbrush. You really wouldn't see what I was doing. So I think that'll probably be it for this work in progress. On my next video, I will prime some of the outside armor. I'll show you guys this all clear coated, go over what I'm going to do for panel lining, and yeah, I think that'll be good for the next video. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.